Okay. Right on. Well, how are you doing? How are you doing, Matthew? Very, very good to see you. Can you see
Yeah,
my
you
cameras? My
too.
camera's not on. Where's my
No.
camera? There we go. There, my camera's on. Okay. Very good to see you. Welcome to the Ganja Invest session or series of the ganjaactives.com Cannabis Conference and Expo series. Thank you very much for joining us, Matthew Nordgren. How do you pronounce your last name, please? Was that correct?
Yeah, that was about as good as I hear for the first time. But it's Nordgren
Nordgren.
and
Nordgren. Yes, exactly.
very Norwegian. And
I was gonna
I
ask,
think
what's
you
the
said,
origins of that? I was gonna say, what's the origins of that?
yeah,
Norwegian.
Norwegian.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right. But you hail from Dallas, I'm assuming. You seem to have a pretty distinct history in Dallas.
I do. My family came over from Norway to Minnesota and then
Okay,
Minnesota down to Louisiana and Texas in just a few generations. And so, but I was born and raised in Texas, Dallas, went to school in Austin, played football for the Texas Longhorns. That was a great experience.
right on.
And, went on to be a part of a couple NFL teams briefly. And then ever since I've been investing. And I think the greatest joy of my life, without question, from that whole journey from Texas has been getting to California and being a part of this botanical wellness movement that all started many years ago. I mean, back to the Himalayas. You can go back millions
Oh
of
yeah, for
years,
sure,
but
for sure.
certainly, in your part of the world, we can trace back how important that journey has been. And friend, I'm just happy to be here because when I get a chance to talk to folks from your part of the world, as a compared to Texas or California or
Right.
wherever, it seems a little bit more meaningful. This
Okay.
word sacrament is what they
Right,
talk
right.
about.
I've heard you using that word as well, and I
I
was good. I
love
was
it. I
getting to that.
love
Yeah,
it.
I get
Oh,
to that as well. Right on.
I got that from Jamaica,
Yeah, right on.
and so it's been such a gift. And friend, we're just so happy to be a part of this industry right now.
So how did you get into cannabis? How did you, well, first of all, you said you did football. That was a great experience. Then you went into investing. I know you had get an injury and that kind of ended that. Which do you prefer? Was it the football or the investing? Which is more
Well,
challenging, I guess.
I think investing, without question, but
Okay.
that's only because I was a backup quarterback. I didn't get a chance to start. So in
Okay.
Texas, I was behind Vince Young. At Philadelphia Eagles, I got to play behind Donovan McNabb and watch him. It just wasn't, those guys were amazing, maybe some of the best to ever do it. But being
Right.
behind them taught me servant leadership, and it taught me how to build a team from the sideline. And that turned out to make for a great investor, in particular, a venture investor or a growth equity investor, because you're investing in teams that are already moving the ball down the field. And as a person on the sideline, you're really trying to figure out, what can I do to help make this team a champion? And that's what we do for our companies. That's the skill that I developed playing football, and certainly enjoy I think God's, called me to be in this position today to speak for the botanical wellness space, to see the hope it gives people, the goodness it brings out in the world. And this is definitely the highlight of my life.
And so how did you get into cannabis? How did that part of the journey start?
Oh, cannabis has been in part of my journey for a long time. But in football, back then, you didn't want to let anybody know.
Right, right on.
But now it's a different world. And, when I had the opportunity to look at, where I was going to go, sort of take the life lessons and skills I had developed in finance and football, this industry came along, and it aligned more with my spirit and way of being, balance, peace, homeostasis, all these things the plant can really help one achieve. And I believe that's the true meaning of life, being in the moment, and ultimately being aligned, body, mind, and then spirit, to have the spirit you really want. This is important. And so I just said, we're going to take everything we've learned, we're going to bring it into the botanical wellness space, and we're going to grab the greatest minds that understand how to manage capital and invest it, and the legal and tax and auditing and all the things that have to happen, we have the skills to be able to help bring, this medicine to the world. And so we just said, there's no better way to spend our lives. Let's do it.
I love your terminology, the botanical wellness. This is actually the first time I've heard that one. That's I'm going to use it, but I'm going to steal that, by the way. I've never heard that one before. I like that. So all right. So you mentioned before that you look for teams, look to invest in teams that are moving the ball along. What is it in a team that would specifically attract you to say, okay, this is worthy of getting involved in? What about a team? And how big a team is it? Like we're talking a full-fledged company, a startup, versus startup? What do you look at?
It's a great question. It's one that everybody who's watching should think about, because there are different team players, different parts of your team that you need at every stage in your journey. And when you're in the early stages and you're building something, you have a concept, it doesn't matter if you're 60 or 20 years old. It really doesn't matter if I've had 40 years of success or none. When you start something new, there's still a journey that needs to happen, and you need to be present and take each step with the folks that are there. So the answer to your question is, our skill set is joining a journey when it's about halfway complete.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because, back to the football analogy, I wasn't the guy on the field. I wasn't the starter. I wasn't the guy taking every snap. You've got to go in and be a team on the field, and you have to say, okay, who can I bring in at this time? If you're a startup company, there are investors that particularly have that skill and spend their time on seed stage investing, startup investing. And then there are, because they have that skill, they know they can bring a lot to a team. They want to give a little bit of money. It's not as big of a check at that stage because you're just starting, but they know they can bring skills to the table. Maybe they're a lawyer, maybe they're a serial entrepreneur, and so they give you a little bit of money, and they also get a little bit of the back end of the company. And that's a great thing, because they have those skills and they can help bring value outside a whole bunch of money, just enough to get you to next proof of concept.
Right.
Where you have your first outside round of capital, maybe they call it an A round. And there are really great investors that focus on the A round. Okay, we know we can't join a team day one, but we're good. We don't want to be too late either. We want to really get companies that have a good thing going, and they got a decent sized team, and they have some proofs of concept and some revenue coming in. And there are investors who like to get in there, and it's all about risk. Okay. So then when you get to the next stage and you're in your early stage growth round, mid stage growth round, late stage growth round, there are investors at each of those stages as well that come in and say, I have less risk, but less return for it. But I know this is the type of investing I can do. And so for us, we're the type of investor that comes in to kind of your mid stage or late stage growth. We're not bankers. We're not looking to do a transaction. We don't want to give you money and sell you. We want to add value. We want to help you get in the goal line, but it's a journey. We're best prepared for, what do they call it? Fuel in your tank, gas on the fire. We want to add something at that stage. So if you're listening to this, I think the big takeaway for you is, don't ever act like you're not wherever you are in your journey. It's okay. There are people there for you. Make sure if you're talking to an investor that you understand what their appetites are. Where do they like to be? And if it's not exactly where you are, that's okay. The best thing you can do is be where you are, focus on those investors, and let investors that may be down the road a little bit be aware of what you're doing.
You mentioned something there interesting, and that does happen to a lot of seed stage startup investors, where they look for a point of exit, look for a point where you're going to sell the company and for an exit. I see you have a very interesting portfolio, some of the top brands in the industry. I'm assuming you're not waiting for them to get bought up by somebody for your exit. How does that relationship work?
Well, it's a great question, and you don't know when you're investing early. And the funds we've built over the years, back in the early days of the cannabis movement in the United States, at least, we were investing very early in companies. And so, fortunately, if you look at the portfolio, as you said, they turned into all at this time be really great companies. We haven't had anybody die on us.
Right.
We definitely had to go down some alleys with them,
Okay.
and fight our way out. But so far, all of them have a chance. And so you don't really know. But as of today, a lot of companies have an opportunity to go public, particularly on the ancillary side right now, because they can access institutional capital. Some companies are in conversations with Fortune 500 companies that do what they do, bigger companies that are coming in to buy them so that they can enter the cannabis space in some service capacity. Or many companies in the industry are just merging themselves together. And so you're going to see that happen, where companies now, their exits are, let's join together and get bigger. And so all of these things are happening right now, and we didn't know exactly how it was going to play out, but along that journey, you're just trying to add as much value to every one of these companies that you can, and helping these entrepreneurs think through what their exits are going to be, what is the best path forward at any particular time. But it's a constant reassessment, and every day it seems like that changes. And so it's just, being there for each other through thick and thin, and ultimately you work hard enough and you got a great enough team, you get there.
Right on. And you touched on the ancillary, and I noticed you do focus on this. Do you do any plant touching businesses? Have you invested in any plant touching businesses?
Well, in our funds, we don't invest in plant touching businesses, but the bigger definition for that is if they're federally legal in their environment. So in the United States, that's not. But over the years ago, we couldn't invest in hemp licenses either. But then in 2018, they gave the hemp farm bill gave some ability for that, so we could invest there. So as things move forward in any particular country, if it meets federal legal guidelines, we can then invest. So that may happen here in the U.S. in the next couple of years, which would be great. Okay. We do, however, invest in or help manage or advise on plant touching companies through SPVs, single purpose vehicles or special purpose vehicles. Right. We'll do them as a one-off opportunity, and we've been involved with a lot of those over the years. Okay. But as a manager, we want to continue to be an institutional quality firm. And so we want to be able to make the, argument to these institutionals that are allocating to the space now that our firm has always, at any point in time, been on that side of the fence, so that we can access that capital from those institutionals and then provide it to this industry. Because that's all we're trying to do. All we're trying to do is fight for resources for these entrepreneurs to bring this sacrament to people. Right. At the end of the day, that's it. And we're going to fight that battle however we can get it done. We all are, aren't we? That's all a part of it. But tell me, how difficult is it to navigate given the federal illegality? I mean, even the vaporizer industry, they took it in 2019 with the vape crisis, which kind of was cannabis. Of course, their big gripe is really e-cigarettes, but and the fruity flavored e-cigarettes and so on. But they lumped the cannabis vaporizer into that. See, you have even Cusco under your portfolio. How does, I mean, even something like that, vaporizer, that's even bongs are problematic. I mean, how do you navigate that with the non-plant touching products, the ancillary products, and so on? Well, we just have great lawyers, and they look at it every month, every week. I mean, we constantly reassess what that means. And if you know the legal world, which I know you do, there's what's what, you never know until you get in there and have to fight somebody on any topic. So what we think about is, our investors expect us to give them the least risky path forward at any particular point in time. And they trust us to make those decisions. And so, there isn't a perfect answer for you, friend, but the answer for us is, we assess it all the time, and the needle moves on that one. And what type, if you're allowed to say, what type of investors do you, funds do you manage? I'm assuming a lot of institutional investors, are they people you wouldn't assume would have an interest in cannabis, or would they be surprising entrants? I mean, what kind of people are actually investing in the space through entities? Yeah, I think that's right. We have people that you would expect, but I would say maybe of all the great funds out there, we may have, as many as anybody that you wouldn't expect, because of the fact that they can invest with us anywhere in the world. And, because of the structure of the fund's assets, they don't have to worry about, being able to receive a distribution on that capital that could be risky in the U.S. or outside the U.S., or the tax concerns that are extraordinary with 280E and other things. So we've been able to get through compliance at firms that sometimes I'm shocked, at least over the past few years, that we got through. But at this time, we would expect that our firm and our funds, the way they've been structured, could pass compliance at any institutional firm now after this blue wave and the momentum. But in years past, I would say we're surprised sometimes.
Right on. And how well, let me ask you, and you said you've had an interest in Jamaica. Have you been to Jamaica? Have you spent time in Jamaica?
I spent time, yeah, and so not enough, and can't wait to come back.
Right on. So how do you view the Jamaica from an investment point of view? How does it look?
Well, I think the good news about having, there is no good news, but I guess there's some. The world got shut down for the last year and a half. And at that same time, this industry is as much as any thrived. And the botanical wellness space is just absolutely, become more aware in people's minds that it's happening, and people have learned more about it. All over the world, really, particularly the Americas. And so when I think about Jamaica, I think really a great opportunity that now that the world's kind of resetting, if you will, and these botanicals are becoming such big industry, I think now is the time to reassess what the relationship for Jamaica can be to the world. And I think this is the calling for it. So I have a lot of thoughts on that, but my point I think I want to make as an answer is that whatever one thought that might be before, the whole world got sick, it shut down, and now it's reopening. And this industry snuck in there and became a huge topic. So I think Jamaica needs to figure out a way in this new world to be a big part of that. And I think it will. And I think this is a massive opportunity for Latin America as well as Jamaica and other places.
Right on. And so, what about any recommendation, any advice on how one would approach? I mean, say, obviously, I don't think there are any companies that have developed to the point of being even a mid-stage investment. Maybe Kaya. So where was it? Whoa! Sorry, somebody's microphones. Sorry. Yeah, a couple other people's microphones are on there. Hello? Where did he go? Okay, he disappeared. What the hell? No, you guys, out of the room. He's gone. Go to the waiting room. This is crazy. Yesterday we seem to have lost Matthew. I don't know what happened. Matthew! He disappeared on me. Hello, just a moment, people. I guess we're waiting for Matt to come back in. I don't know what happened. We have a couple people with some audio issues. We're just give me a moment. Let me see what's happened.
Human history at any point in time. In my mind, there's only a finite amount of resources on planet Earth at any given time, whether it's now or a million years ago. And I think certain individuals, have been given the blessings to go out and obtain as many of those resources as possible to do good with them, because they're meaningless at any point in time. Where there weren't dollars a million years ago, they didn't even exist. So what was the resource then? But we're timeless beings in a timed experience. These physical forms that we're in, these resources in the world, our spirit is just here for however long. So I think when you're here, it's not a bad thing to go out and make a bunch of money. What's a bad thing is if you have the ability to obtain resources, not using them for good. And frankly, I think you have to go do it, because can you trust everyone else to do as much good as you're going to do? That's how I feel every day. I can't wait to go obtain more resources, because I know that when I look in the mirror every day and look at our team, I know exactly what we're going to do with them. We're going to go empower, we're going to encourage, we're going to resource, we're going to serve. And so we feel encouraged to do that. So I think it's okay if you're doing that in the right way. And for this industry, I hope you have a deeper meaning about why you're doing it, obviously, for people, for humanity, for Mother Earth. But I think you deserve to make a lot of money along the way. And those, I think, that are in this industry for the right reasons will ultimately be the ones that obtain the most resources from it. And I think probably end up doing the most good in that way too.
Right on, right on. I've said this before. I like your energy. I do admire your energy. It's there and it shows. And I guess you're growing. I'll watching your company and the entity that you guys are involved with very, very closely. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to throw in there? Last couple minutes. We're waiting for somebody. There must have been a mix-up. I'll sort it out and we'll communicate. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to throw out?
No mix-up. There's, the good thing about life is that it's the moment is all that matters, because that's the way your brain works. Data in, data out, and people, often get too caught up in the past. I mean, the past is just data, okay? And the future hasn't happened yet. It's belief in yourself in the moment that it's the truth. And you look at yourself in the moment and a hope that you have enough information from the past and enough presence and mindfulness in the moment so that you make the right decision for the future. But in both cases, it's about the moment. And so, hey, whether someone shows up now or not, we're here. The only thing that matters in the world to me right now is
this conversation. All right.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate that.
Why?
I appreciate that.
Because it's right now, and it doesn't matter.
It's what's happening.
Happens.
It's what's happening.
We'll make
absolutely.
the best use of it. And,
absolutely. I hear you.
And that's what's happening with this industry, frankly. It's the
moving,
mindfulness that I think we're trying to bring to people, and I think these, businesses help do that.
You touched on something, and I was going to follow it up after my energy statement. But yes, how do you, with your infectious energy, how do you approach people to get the funding for what you do?
Well, we just keep answering the bell every day.
Yeah. Okay.
And like anybody, it's a journey, but we don't get so confused in what could be as compared to just giving everything we have to the journey, to what's happening. And then you wake up one day and someone says, "You've done great things." It reminds me of, of an experience I had when I was kind of paying attention to this lady when she was talking about this organization she created, which was to help drunk driving. And she had lost her daughter in a drunk driving accident.
Right, okay.
Probably the worst thing that could ever happen to anybody in the world would be
losing your child. Yeah, definitely.
Losing your child. I mean, right?
Absolutely,
There's nothing worse. And then she created an organization that was supposed to help, in the name of her daughter, drunk driving fatalities. And some amount of years later, she was being asked and interviewed about how great it was that this organization had been created and that she had saved 1 million lives or something like this.
Right,
I can't remember the exact number, but I was watching this and it was about, how great is it? How many lives you saved? How great, how great, how great. And I'll never forget her response. And her response was, is it great, or it just is? I choose to believe it's great, but don't forget there was a time when the worst thing that could ever happen to anybody happened to me.
Right on.
Okay, and so what an interesting thing to think about. If you close your eyes and say, what is the greatest thing I could ever accomplish as my life was ending? What would I want to be able to look back on and say, well, if you could say you saved 1 million people, I think you'd be pretty happy with your life.
Right.
Probably not much more you could lay on your deathbed and say, man, that's great. So, and then the same person also had to play with the concept that the worst thing that ever could happen
also happened. Right.
And so it was this sort of perspective that said, there is no good, bad, sad, happy. It's all data. And the beauty is understanding how the brain processes information, how the body's supposed to work, and then being able to be so in the moment that you're able to recognize input is just input and that you have full control of the output. It's you that gets to decide. You only have control of two things in life, and it's the moment and yourself in it. That's it. You're not supposed to relinquish control. You're supposed to take full control.
Right.
But
right.
there's only two things you can actually do that with. And so being in that moment, I think in this woman's mind, and I think the takeaway is that it can always be great if you choose. Nothing's either, it just is. But you
Right.
get to choose, and that's
I'm gonna have to ask you that very question. If you were on your deathbed, when you look back at your life, what's that one thing that would make you happy from this point of view?
Well, from this point of view, for me, it would be my faith. I don't think there's anything greater you can do to somebody than look them in the eye and represent goodness, represent, what your faith means in life. And it's a journey, and you're always trying to get better at that, no doubt. But
Right.
I think, as I sit here today, I know how important that is. And so that would be my first answer. But, family and other things would also be important. But spreading this business and growing this industry would be a joy.
But you bring up faith. Just one of the final questions. There's a perpetual conflict between religion and cannabis use. How do you contend with that? How do you deal with it?
No, there's not. If anybody's confused about it, just read the Bible. Go back to Genesis. Look at the Garden of Eden. The word herb
would be our
is all over the
reference,
place.
Talk to a lot of priests, and they won't say that. I mean, that's what I'll say. That's what you'll say. A lot of priests, that's not what they preach. Even here in Jamaica, they call it the devil's lettuce. They still call it the devil's lettuce. I mean, it's a factor that we have to contend with. It's real.
Well, it's just education, but everybody needs education. It's coming, and we see that trending in other parts of the world right now. And just be prepared, because the change is coming. And it's important, I think, to meet everybody in the place they are in the journey. If they're at step one and you're somebody who wants to spread this word, don't try to force it on them. Just go where they are with it and walk that path with them. So it's coming. No, I'm not concerned. I've done enough studying to know exactly, I think, what faith should think about this.
Right. But, we're transitional human beings. But yeah. So, anyways, I will. We can wrap it up there. That's a nice note to end it on. You're gone again. Okay, something happened. Right. So I guess we'll wrap it up there. I know he has another couple other meetings. Probably stepped out for a moment again. Yeah, there he is. Anyways, right. That's all right. Just wrapping things up all the same. I will say, I will, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us here. Very insightful, very good information. You are definitely one of the more stellar entities out there, and I do admire what you do and the entities that you guys represent. I think it's cool stuff. And I would love to see, you do some investments in Jamaica. I think we could use a person with your energy, your mind to help, to help elevate some entities in Jamaica to a higher level. I think that would be great. But we have our Ganja Invest platform that I will be getting some people in on, so I will share this information with you when we do have it available. As soon as we do, we could see what can be done.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for having me, and looking forward to staying in touch with everybody.
All right on. One love. And you'll see this on the Ganja Project program, which will be released in a couple of weeks. All right. So once again, thank you very much for your time, and tell your team thanks a lot. It was great putting this together with them and with yourself.
Thanks, guys. Okay, God bless. Bye-bye.
Okay, one love.